Chapter 594. Yang Bai's expression became solemn as he stared at Yang Kai, his gaze finally becoming dignified. "Martial nephew, you actually possess such strength. Good, it seems you have some kind of external force to rely on. However, your immortal ascension boundary 5th stage cultivation is still too weak." "Is that so?" Old Demon took a step forward and stood guard by Yang Kai's side, the same incomparably rich demonic qi gushing out from his body, the same aura as Yang Bai's, seemingly drawing in each other. The 8 old men shouted at the same time, pushing their strength to 0.1%, their expressions filled with anger, as if they were ready to fight Yang Bai to the death. Yang Bai laughed. "You think you can win against me by relying on so many treasures? You're all too naive. Fine, before I leave, I'll show you what a third-order transcendent is. Brother, I gave you a chance, but unfortunately you didn't appreciate it. Today, I'll accept your demonic qi." These last words were directed to the old demon. When Yang Bai had emerged from the coiling dragon stream, his cultivation hadn't yet reached the third-order transcendent realm, so he was unable to fully absorb the energy from the demon lord's corpse. Yang Bai had wanted to wait for a period of time before he could do so, but he hadn't expected the old demon to take advantage of him. Now that such an opportunity was in front of him, he naturally wanted to take back his own strength. Saying so, he gently waved his hand, and a layer of 7-colored light film covered his body like a treasure armor. The old patriarchs of the 8 great families also released their martial skills and artifacts, bombarding Yang Bai's body. These attacks should have been able to overturn rivers and seas, but all they did was cause the light barrier around Yang Bai's body to ripple slightly, unable to even break through his defenses. Although they already knew that Yang Bai's methods were extraordinary and his strength was formidable, after seeing this scene, the 8 old patriarchs still couldn't help feeling a bit of shock. The old demon also took action, sending out a blood mist towards Yang Bai, wrapping him up. This blood mist contained the old demon's many years of comprehension and cultivation, enough to erode anything in this world. However, Yang Bai only lightly shook his body to disperse this blood mist. The old demon coldly snorted and took 3 steps back. His expression was extremely solemn. The absolute gap between their realms was not something his experience could make up for. If there was a lot of blood here, he could still use his Demon Spectre Saint technique, but all the blood that flowed out from the dead had been used by Yang Bai, so the old demon couldn't cook without rice. A loud dragon roar came out, and a huge dragon head appeared behind Yang Kai. It shook its head and tail, opened its bloody mouth and bit towards Yang Bai. Flood dragon? Yang Bai disdainfully waved his left hand and summoned a huge 7-colored poisonous python. This poisonous python's scales were brilliant, and as it bared its fangs ferociously rushed towards the black flood dragon, opening its mouth and spitting out 7-colored rays of light. These rays of light contained a terrifying amount of evil energy, and in an instant the black flood dragon was blown to pieces. "That's all there is to it." Yang Bai sneered, his expression calm as he coldly declared, "Release your full strength. I'd like to see who can stop me. I, Yang Bai, have lived a miserable life. All I ever pursued was strength. So what if it was righteous? So what if it was evil? As long as I can become stronger, I will kill anyone who stands in my way. Even if it was your honored master who raised you?" Yang Kai stared at him coldly. Although the situation was critical, he didn't show the slightest sign of panic, instead maintaining a calm expression. The old demon carefully observed. Although he didn't know what Yang Kai was relying on, after following him for so long, the old demon knew that Yang Kai wouldn't do anything he wasn't confident in, so he quickly suppressed his desire to flee and quietly stood guard beside Yang Kai. "Honored master?" Yang Bai sneered, "I don't have a honored master anymore." Saying so, Yang Bai once again pushed the evil energy in his body, causing the old patriarchs of the 8 great families to all groan as their knees went soft and they all fell to the ground. Their faces all became 7-colored as their yuan qi and physical strength rapidly drained away, all of them madly converging towards Yang Bai's body. The absolute suppression in terms of cultivation made them deeply realize just how terrifying Yang Bai was, and they also realized that it was impossible for them to do anything to him. "Yang Kai, you have to leave quickly. I'm afraid we won't be able to escape. Yang Yinghao suddenly called out, his voice growing softer and softer as he spoke. If they had known that Yang Bai's strength was so terrifying, they would never have come here with only 8 of them. They had thought that by relying on their strength, even if they died in battle, they would at least be able to drag Yang Bai down with them, but in reality, this idea was nothing more than a joke. Now, all they could do was risk their lives to protect Yang Kai. You can leave now. Yang Bai's expression remained calm as he lightly shook his head, stretching out his hand and sending out a sharp gust of wind that pierced through Yang Yinghao's shoulder, causing blood to flow out. Yang Bai, you deceived your master and destroyed your ancestors, bringing shame to the sect. Today, I will clean up your sect on behalf of Grand Master. Yang Kai was like an enraged beast, suddenly becoming violent as he roared. Yang Bai was stunned, glancing over at him strangely, contemptuously saying, "A trivial immortal ascension boundary 5th stage brat dares to speak such arrogant words. You really don't know how high the heavens are. Martial nephew, you're going to die soon. Are you planning to turn into an evil ghost and clean up your sect on behalf of that old fart?" Although they were from the same sect, Yang Bai looked down on Yang Kai from the very beginning, believing that his current strength was only because he had borrowed some kind of external force. Ha! Yang Kai let out a strange laugh, his grin fading as he shouted, "Old demon!" The old demon responded immediately, not hesitating as he rushed towards Yang Bai like a madman. Yang Bai's expression was filled with disdain as he waved his hand towards the old demon, sending out a burst of violent energy. The old demon's yuan qi flickered for a moment before it was destroyed and he was sent flying backwards, crashing heavily to the ground, but he immediately stood up without a care in the world. Completely unscathed. This scene not only stunned the old patriarchs of the 8 great families, even Yang Bai wore a look of shock. After recovering, he nodded, "This body is truly amazing." The old demon laughed. "Although this old master can't beat you right now, you can't kill this old master either. This body is not something you can shake." The body the old demon possessed had been left under the coiling dragon stream for hundreds of years, so it had not been damaged. Obviously, it had been tempered to a certain limit by that demon lord. With Yang Bai's current cultivation, he really couldn't shake this body. "I thought you had something to rely on, but it turns out it's just this," Yang Bai snorted. "If that's all you have, then I won't play with you any longer." The old demon didn't say anything, but instead rushed towards Yang Bai with an unstoppable momentum. Yang Bai spat disdainfully and coldly said, "You're just a brute. You have an empty shell, but you can't use it to its full potential. You should just return it to me." Saying so, an even fiercer burst of qi than before as Yang Bai formed a claw with his hand and directly grabbed towards the old demon's head. To his surprise, the old demon didn't even try to evade and simply let Yang Bai grab him. Courting death. Yang Bai was overjoyed and quickly circulated his secret art, madly absorbing the power from the old demon's body. This demonic qi was the same as the secret art he cultivated, so he could absorb it without any hesitation. Once he absorbed the old demon's power, Yang Bai's strength would definitely rise again. Yang Bai could even use a secret technique to refine the old demon's body into a puppet. "Young master!" The old demon struggled to resist, but was still unable to stop the loss of power from his body, so he had no choice but to call out. Regardless of what Yang Kai was planning, now was the time to act. It was because he trusted Yang Kai unconditionally that the old demon was acting so recklessly. A golden chain suddenly appeared, and along with its appearance, an aura of pure yang descended. Whether it was the old demon or Yang Bai, the demonic qi in their bodies seemed to have encountered its nemesis and became restless. This golden chain wasn't very long, but it had a kind of power that could not be ignored and directly wrapped around Yang Bai. Demon sealing chain? Yang Bai was shocked, his face filled with panic as he quickly released the old demon and retreated. Yang Kai sneered, and with his will, the golden demon sealing chain seemed to have a life of its own and instantly wrapped around Yang Bai, firmly binding him. Sila. With a sound like salt being sprinkled into hot oil, the demonic qi in Yang Bai's body madly resisted, but it was still unable to break free from the demon sealing chain's shackles, black smoke constantly rising from his body. On the other hand, the golden demon sealing chain seemed to have no physical form and gradually disappeared into Yang Bai's body, leaving behind only a faint glimmer of light. "Martial uncle, you've been too careless," Yang Kai sneered. "Since we've already obtained that demon lord's body, how could the demon sealing chain not be in my hands? This thing should be your nemesis." Yang Bai's expression was filled with anger as he glared at Yang Kai with hatred, his face twisting in anger. The devil sealing chain was used to restrain evil devil chi. Whether it was Yang Bai or the old demon, all of their current achievements were because they had inherited the demon lord's body. Seemingly suppressed by the demon sealing chain, Yang Bai's arrogant aura quickly converged and most of his strength was suppressed inside his body, unable to be used. The situation had taken a sharp turn and everyone was pleasantly surprised, none of them having anticipated such a change. The old demon stared at Yang Kai in both horror and joy, secretly thinking that his trust in his young master had been correct. He had even forgotten about the existence of the demon sealing chain, but now Yang Kai had taken it out. "Martial uncle, how much of your strength can you use now?" Yang Kai took a step forward, his momentum rising steadily. "Because of you, the great High Heaven Pavilion is now in a miserable state. Grand Master almost lost his life, and my father has been plagued with a chronic illness for many years. You destroyed the central capital, but you destroyed High Heaven Pavilion, so you must pay the price. Now, it's time for you to repay your debt." "Wishful thinking," Yang Bai roared hysterically. "You think you can seal me with a trivial demon sealing chain? Perhaps if you were stronger you would be able to do so, but with your current strength, it's still not enough. The power of an artifact can only be displayed through one's foundation. Didn't I teach you this?" Saying so, Yang Bai clenched his fists and once again released a burst of 7-colored light, covering the surrounding area like a violent storm. At the same time, his figure leapt backwards towards the void corridor. He obviously wanted to leave here first before making any further plans. Chapter 595. Where do you think you're going? Yang Kai's face filled with malice as his body flickered and his speed reached its limit, blocking the entrance to the void corridor as he glared at Yang Bai coldly, his yuan qi surging fiercely. "Scram!" Yang Bai roared, raising his hand and sending a palm strike towards Yang Kai's chest. This palm strike was filled with a dangerous aura, like a snake slithering in and out of its mouth. Kong. With a loud bang, Yang Kai's body shook and a trace of blood leaked from the corner of his mouth while Yang Bai was also forced back a few steps. "Haha." Yang Kai laughed loudly and shouted, "Martial uncle, you're only a first-order transcendent now, let's see how you're going to escape." Saying so, a huge amount of spiritual energy poured out from the small sword in his knowledge sea and under the influence of this spiritual energy, it exuded a cold aura as it shot towards Yang Bai. Yang Bai was shocked and didn't dare resist, hurriedly retreating. The old demon cackled strangely as he transformed into a bloody light and flew around Yang Bai, attacking him fiercely. The old patriarchs of the 8 great families who had also recovered also contributed their strength. In an instant, Yang Bai was thrown into a panic and was struggling to cope. With most of his cultivation sealed by the demon sealing chain, he was now only able to display the strength of a first-order transcendent, so he wasn't Yang Kai's opponent at all. Every time he tried to escape into the void corridor, he would be intercepted. Yang Bai's expression became fierce. Since he obtained the inheritance and partial memories of the demon lord under the coiling dragon stream, he had always yearned for a higher world. Conquering the entire ash-gray cloud evil land and invading Medicine King's Valley was just a prelude to a war with the 8 great families. After planning and scheming for so long, just as he was about to achieve his goal, a single demon sealing chain had ruined his plans, so the madness and anxiety in his heart could be imagined. But in the end, he still had the foundation of a third-order transcendent, so even if he was caught in a dangerous situation, Yang Bai wouldn't be defeated in a short time. Yang Bai displayed a variety of divine technique, shocking everyone present. Yang Kai's heart clenched, but he didn't dare to clash head-on with Yang Bai, instead focusing on controlling his small sword as he watched Yang Bai fight like a trapped beast. Suddenly, an extremely tyrannical aura rapidly approached from not far away. Sensing the source of this aura, Yang Kai was overjoyed and quickly turned his head to look. Sure enough, Meng Wuya's silhouette slowly appeared. Treasurer Meng's face was filled with joy and excitement, and the aura around his body was completely different from before. In fact, it was even stronger than when he had unsealed himself. Behind him, Su Yan and Xia Ningchang also quickly appeared. Obviously, the seal on Meng Wuya's body had been lifted, and now he had truly restored his strength to the transcendent realm. Yang Kai estimated that Meng Wuya might even be a third-order transcendent master. It was just a feeling, but Yang Kai firmly believed it. Meng Wuya didn't waste any time and simply clenched his hand, sending out an invisible force that pressed down on Yang Bai like a mountain, making it difficult for him to even move. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the old demon and the old patriarchs of the 8 great families all used their killing moves, instantly riddling Yang Bai's body with thousands of holes and blood. How is this possible? Yang Bai stared blankly at Meng Wuya, who had suddenly appeared, unable to believe that this brat actually possessed the same cultivation and strength as him when he was at his peak. "Martial uncle, it's time for you to die," Yang Kai shouted coldly. Yang Bai's face went ashen as a thick madness flashed across the depths of his eyes. Even though he was at the end of his rope, he still let out a hearty laugh. "Ignorant fool. Even if I die, I won't let you off easily." Saying so, his yuan qi and aura suddenly became extremely dangerous, and his body also grew larger, becoming extremely bloated. Yang Bai's face flushed red as blood poured out of his 7 orifices. The air rapidly filled with a sense of unease. Meng Wuya's expression became cold as he shouted, "Stop him, he's going to explode the yuan qi in his body." Yang Kai's expression changed greatly as he sent out his soul-type artifact into Yang Bai's mind. However, the other party's spiritual energy was surprisingly tough and powerful, so the small sword was unable to break through his knowledge-sea defenses. Meng Wuya twisted his hand, and with a great force, Yang Bai's head was directly twisted half a circle. Yang Bai's laughter froze in his throat and the light in his eyes quickly faded, but the violent true qi from his body still burst out fiercely. Kong. The old patriarchs of the 8 great families who had gathered around Yang Bai all coughed up blood and were sent flying. The old demon also let out a pitiful scream as he tumbled through the air several times before plunging into the void corridor and disappearing. In the next moment, the huge amount of energy in the central capital's earth veins seemed to have a chain reaction, and from the place where Yang Bai had exploded his yuan qi, it began to explode outwards. At the same time, a strange force swept over. Meng Wuya was stunned as he hurriedly glanced around, his eyes soon landing on the void corridor and calling out in alarm, "How could there be a void corridor here?" Even someone as strong as Meng Wuya, at this moment, seemed to have seen something terrifying and was instantly thrown into disarray. Slightly dazed, Meng Wuya hurriedly retreated, arriving beside Su Yan and Xia Ningchang like a bolt of lightning. Grabbing one in each hand, Meng Wuya released his yuan qi to protect them, shouting, "Yang Kai, come with this old master." Saying so, his figure had already disappeared into the void corridor. Although Yang Kai didn't know why Treasurer Meng was so panicked, he knew that the situation wasn't good. Yang Bai's explosion of his yuan qi had caused the central capital's earth veins to undergo a massive change. This kind of change was a catastrophic disaster that even Meng Wuya wouldn't be able to resist. Now, if he wanted to survive, his only option was to enter the void corridor and go to the other side. Hearing Meng Wuya's shout, Yang Kai didn't hesitate and quickly flew over. 8 seniors, come with me." As soon as his voice fell, he entered the void corridor. At that moment, the pitch-black void corridor seemed to collapse as countless cracks appeared all around it, causing a series of cracking sounds to ring out incessantly. That mysterious and strange power came straight at him. Yang Kai had seen how terrifying the power of a collapsing void corridor was. When he was escaping from the void corridor under the coiling dragon stream, several immortal ascension boundary masters from the Chiu family and Purple Fern Valley were unlucky and their bodies were directly cut in half by the eruption of void force. Half of them were sent to the ash-gray cloud evil land while the other half disappeared. The scene was terrifying and vivid. This kind of void force was not something that could be resisted. But now, the void corridor in front of him was about to collapse under the impact of the earth vein energy. Yang Kai's face went pale as he quickly summoned his bone shield to protect himself while his yuan qi madly poured into it. An anxious message came from the front. It was from Meng Wuya, but when Yang Kai looked around, he couldn't see his figure. A strong light hit him, causing Yang Kai to be unable to open his eyes. He only felt that his bone shield had to bear a huge impact and was forced to retreat. Accompanied by severe pain and dizziness, Yang Kai's consciousness quickly blurred. It had been half a year since the ash-gray cloud evil land was defeated, the 4 great evil kings died, and Demon Lord Yang Bai disappeared. During this half a year, the entire central capital had many things to do. During that battle, some unknown event had occurred underground, causing the entire central capital city to collapse several dozen meters. Now, looking around, the huge central capital city seemed to be located in a mountain valley. Countless houses had collapsed, and countless people had died or been injured. Only Yang Kai's mansion, which was protected by Heaven's palace, remained intact. In that battle, the old patriarchs of the 8 great families had also gone missing. No one knew where they had gone, but everyone knew that most of them had perished. What made the 8 great families even more distressed was that Yang Kai had also disappeared. This rising star of the central capital, since the beginning of the Inheritance War, had been blooming with extraordinary brilliance, repeatedly creating incredible miracles. He had led his allies to fight against the other Yang family young lords, resisted the 8 great families, and finally led the 8 great families to resist the invasion of the ash-gray cloud evil land. Although he was not even 20 years old, he had already become a legendary figure. The Yang family acting patriarch had disappeared, and now the huge Yang family had been taken over by the 2nd young lord, Yang Zhao, along with the other 7 young patriarchs, to oversee the reconstruction of the central capital. If they wanted to rebuild this huge central capital, it would take at least a decade or so. The only thing that made Yang Kai feel gratified was that after that battle, the central capital's world energy aura had become abundant, making it very suitable for cultivation. Because of this, it had attracted countless disciples from various sects and families to come to the central capital to help. While carrying out the reconstruction of the central capital, they also cultivated here. Among the ruins, Qiu Yimeng stood alone, her eyes filled with sadness as she stood quietly. Behind her, the central capital wolf young lord Hua appeared. Hua's stars seemed to have matured a lot, standing side by side with Qiu Yimeng for a moment before saying, "Good people don't live long, scourges live for 1,000 years. Don't worry too much, young Lord Kai is definitely hiding somewhere, secretly watching us." Qiu Yimeng murmured, "Really? Then why hasn't he appeared for half a year?" Hua's stars fell silent. If Yang Kai was really fine, he should have appeared long ago, but now, half a year had passed and no one knew where Yang Kai was. Not only was Yang Kai's whereabouts unknown, but the mysterious Master Meng Wuya, High Heaven Pavilion Su Yen, Xia Ning Chang, and even the old demon had all disappeared. It was as if during that great change, they had all agreed to disappear together. Qiu Yimeng couldn't even find someone to ask. "Hua stars, do you think he's dead?" Qiu Yimeng's beautiful eyes flashed with tears as she bit her lower lip and asked, "Young Lord Kai can die?" Hua Xingchen laughed. "If young Lord Kai died, everyone in this world would probably have already died. You don't need to worry about him, just feed yourself until you're white and fat. When he comes back one day, you can just feed yourself to him." Shameless. Qiu Yimeng glared at him fiercely. Hua stars grinned meaningfully before turning his gaze to the ruins in front of him, the Hua family young lord's eyes showing a slight confusion. "Young Master Kai, where the hell are you? If you're dead, then so be it. Everyone will give up on looking for you. But if you're not dead, then hurry up and come out and shout, many people are worried about you." The corners of the Hua family young lord's eyes were slightly wet, and his mood was somewhat gloomy. Chapter 596. Early morning, Ancient Cloud Island. Ancient Cloud Island was one of the few first-class forces in the Endless Sea Islands. The sect had more than a dozen large and small islands under its jurisdiction, rich in world energy and countless precious treasures. Its disciples were also conscientious and diligent in their cultivation, so their future was bright. Although Ancient Cloud Island was not as strong as Supreme Solitary Sect, what it lacked was only transcendent realm masters. Since a few years ago, Ancient Cloud Island had found the Broken Moon transformation art, the sect's hallowed scripture that had been lost for more than 300 years. Island Master Gu Feng had devoted himself to cultivating his disciples, hoping that one day a few of his disciples with outstanding aptitude would be able to cultivate to the transcendent realm and stand on equal footing with Supreme Solitary Sect. Although this goal was very ambitious and would take time, Gu Feng believed that with the assistance of the Broken Moon transformation art, there was always hope that his disciples would be able to achieve this goal. A gentle sea breeze blew in, clear and natural. Ancient Cloud Island's youngest disciple, Zhong Miaoku, woke up from a night of meditation and lightly jumped out of bed, quickly washing her face and rinsing her mouth before opening the door and walking out. Arriving at a simple house nearby, she gently knocked on the door and called out softly, Junior brother, wake up." The door opened, and a young face appeared from inside. Looking at the other party's deep, seemingly weathered eyes, Zhong Miao couldn't help feeling a little dazed. She couldn't understand, this junior brother of hers was obviously less than 20 years old, yet he seemed to have experienced many things. Whether it was his demeanor or his style of doing things, it didn't seem like something a young man would do, and the words he occasionally said were always thought-provoking. "Senior sister, good morning." The young man smiled and greeted her. Zhong Miao gently nodded, her pair of full peaks slightly rising and falling, causing one's imagination to run wild. Chuckling lightly, she said, "I thought you were still sleeping. Quickly prepare. Today the elder will come to see the peacocks. We need to help those little guys wash up, otherwise the elder will see. He'll definitely punish us." Yang Kai nodded and returned to the house to begin preparing. In a remote corner of Ancient Cloud Island, Zhong Miao's job was to take care of a few noble peacocks. These peacocks weren't precious exotic beasts, just ordinary peacocks owned by one of Ancient Cloud Island's elders, Han Zhao. Han Zhao was an immortal Ascension Boundary 7-stage cultivator, neither high nor low. However, on Ancient Cloud Island, he was famous for his love, because these peacocks were raised by his late wife. After Mrs. Han passed away, Han Zhao treated them like treasures and specially arranged for people to take care of them. Together with Zhong Miao, the two of them came to the place where the peacocks were. Yang Kai brought some water and helped these noble and proud peacocks clean the stains on their feathers. Looking at the familiar island, Yang Kai couldn't help but laugh. He didn't expect that he would be teleported here by the collapsed void corridor. Half a year ago, Zhong Miao had come from the territory near Ancient Cloud Island. He fished himself out. The collapsing power of the void almost cut his body into countless pieces. If it weren't for the protection of the bone shield, he would have died long ago. After being rescued by Zhong Miao, Yang Kai spent half a month recuperating before his injuries gradually improved. Yang Kai wasn't in a hurry to return to the central capital. The situation there had already been settled. It didn't matter whether he returned or not, he could just stay here with peace of mind. Zhong Miao had even used her connections to beg Elder Han Chao to arrange for the seemingly useless Yang Kai to enter Ancient Cloud Island as an honorary disciple to help her take care of the peacocks. What a coincidence! Yang Kai thought to himself. That year, he had come to Ancient Cloud Island before. "Senior sister, you are an elite disciple of the sect, you should be able to cultivate in a better place. What do you mean by staying here to take care of the peacocks? Isn't that a bit like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut?" Yang Kai said slowly, while talking to Zhong Miao. Zhong Miao nodded gently. She didn't look very beautiful, with some freckles on her face, but she was quite beautiful and pleasing to the eye. Her figure was also quite wonderful, so working with her wasn't boring at all, especially since this cheap senior sister had a particularly good heart. If not for this, she wouldn't have fished Yang Kai out of the sea and used her connections to arrange for him to enter Ancient Cloud Island. Yang Kai's explanation to her was that he was just a fisherman who accidentally fell into the sea. Although the island master and the several elders all want me to enter Divine Wind Island to cultivate, and the world energy there is much more abundant than here, I don't really want to go. What? People walk towards higher places, water flows towards lower places. Senior sister, could it be you are reluctant to part with these peacocks? Yang Kai teased. That's not it. Zhong Miao slowly shook her head, a look of reminiscence flashing across her beautiful eyes. After a long time she said, I stayed because I hope one day I can repay this kindness. Repay this kindness? Yang Kai was surprised. Have I ever told you that senior sister used to be very unimportant in the sect? My status was also very low. Many people even bullied me. Yang Kai nodded lightly. One day, this situation changed. Zhong Miao said, straightening her back, wiping the sweat from her forehead as she recalled, that morning when I got up and was about to feed the peacocks, I found a dagger stuck in the door, and on the dagger was a letter. The letter? Yang Kai raised his brow. What was written on it? There was a line of words and a yellowed page. Zhong Miao smiled faintly. The meaning of that line of words was for me to hand these things over to the island master and the elders. Yang Kai's expression suddenly became strange, suddenly feeling like this scene was quite familiar. Then I did as I was told. Zhong Miao smiled. Guess what? The island master and the elders followed the instructions in the letter and actually found the broken moon transformation art, which had been lost for more than 300 years. Because of this, the island master specially rewarded me by letting me go to the pill hall to receive a lot of pills and arranged for me to cultivate in the profound spirit cave for more than a year. This is the reason why my current cultivation is so high. Zhong Miao talked endlessly. The more she spoke, the more excited she became, a strange light flashing across her beautiful eyes, her cheeks blushing slightly as she clasped her hands on her chest. If it weren't for that letter, I would definitely still be the same as before, bullied everywhere and disliked by everyone. I don't know who put that letter on my door, but I know that because of him, my status changed. I am very grateful to him from the bottom of my heart. Yang Kai couldn't help but cough lightly, his face twitching slightly. That's really a coincidence. Zhong Miao nodded repeatedly. What a coincidence, Ancient Cloud Island is so big, yet he left that letter here with me. So even though I've become Jing Ying's disciple, I don't want to go anywhere else. I want to stay here and wait for that person to show up again. What do you want to do? Yang Kai's face went black. Say thank you to him personally. Zhong Miao said softly, suddenly wearing an embarrassed expression. If he is willing, I want to marry him. That's it? Yang Kai was shocked. You don't even know if he is a man or a woman? Zhong Miao recovered and thought for a moment before saying, if he is a woman, I will be her little sister and listen to her for the rest of my life. If he is a man, Kai Yang hurriedly said, maybe he already has 3 wives and 4 concubines, so he doesn't lack women. Or maybe he's a vicious and evil person, with a ferocious face, big and burly, killing people like scything flax, and cruel by nature. You're not allowed to speak ill of him. Zhong Miao glared at Yang Kai. No matter what kind of person he is, he gave me this opportunity. For me, he is the best person. As long as he appears again, I will definitely follow him. Yang Kai wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and muttered, then he probably won't appear in front of you again. Junior brother, what do you mean? Zhong Miao's aura became dangerous as she aggressively walked towards Yang Kai, her small face gloomy. Are you saying senior sister can't enter that person's eyes? I didn't say that. Yang Kai felt wronged. Then what you mean is senior sister is ugly. Although senior sister isn't beautiful, she can still be his maidservant, right? Absolutely. Yang Kai nodded firmly. That's right. Zhong Miao smiled with satisfaction, no longer looking for trouble with Yang Kai, instead saying, hurry up and clean them, Elder Han will be here soon. Yang Kai was about to nod when his expression suddenly changed, staring up at the sky for a moment before a bitter smile appeared on his face. Senior sister. Yang Kai called out. What? Zhong Miao raised her head in confusion, but after meeting Yang Kai's eyes, her head suddenly became heavy and endless fatigue overwhelmed her, causing her tender body to fall limply to the ground. Yang Kai stepped forward, supported her, and carried her into the room before walking out the door. Two slender figures suddenly appeared in front of Yang Kai, the one in front of him enchanting and charming, as if all the beauty of all the women in the world had been concentrated on her body. This was the beguiling demon queen, Xianxia Luo, and the one following behind her was naturally Bai Luo. Staring at Yang Kai, after a moment of silence, Xianxia Luo ground her teeth and said, "Little bastard, the entire central capital is worried about you, all of them are looking for you, yet you're hiding here and fooling around with other women. You really are a playboy by nature, but your lust still hasn't changed." As she spoke, a look of rebuke appeared on her face. "What do you mean?" Yang Kai angrily retorted, "Don't try to slander me." "Master, just kill him and end all troubles." Bai Luo bared her fangs and brandished her claws, glaring at Yang Kai like a little tiger. Yang Kai glanced over at her, his eyes locking onto her delicate little mouth, grinning wickedly as he said, "I haven't touched a woman in a long time, so don't provoke me. If you provoke me, I'll use force on you. It won't be good." Bai Luo's beautiful face went pale and she quickly hid behind Xianxia Luo, the fox assuming the tiger's might. "My master is here. Don't be so presumptuous in front of me." "Enough." Xianxia Luo snorted, stepping forward and staring at Yang Kai. "Everyone thinks you're dead, only I know you're still alive. You little bastard, you're really a troublemaker." Yang Kai had Xianxia Luo's soul-seeking seal in his body, and although Yang Kai could easily destroy it with his current cultivation, he didn't do so, allowing Xianxia Luo to find him. Chapter 597. What happened to that little girl? Xianxia Luo asked cautiously, her beautiful eyes glancing towards the room. "I have some kind of relationship with her, and she was the one who rescued me." Yang Kai explained casually. "You didn't touch her, did you?" Xianxia Luo's mouth curled into an ambiguous smile. "How could I be so bored?" Yang Kai snorted, his expression becoming solemn again as he asked, "How is the central capital?" "Everything is fine, except for your disappearance. Moreover, all the people close to you have disappeared. They wanted to ask you about your situation but couldn't find you, so they're all a bit confused." Yang Kai nodded lightly. This situation was also within his expectations. Seeing Yang Kai not show much sadness, Xianxia Luo suddenly realized that the people close to him who had disappeared were probably not in any danger, otherwise, he wouldn't have such an expression. That day, what happened under the central capital? What about Yang Bai? Xianxia Luo hesitated for a moment before asking nervously. "It's a long story." Yang Kai smiled bitterly and shook his head, not wanting to say more. "As for Yang Bai, he's dead." That? Xianxia Luo's pair of beautiful eyes flashed with joy and excitement. "And he's dead, I saw it with my own eyes." Yang Kai grinned. Bai Luo clenched her fists and shouted excitedly, "Great! Yang Bai is dead, but you're safe and sound, so why haven't you returned to the central capital for more than half a year?" Xianxia Luo stared at Yang Kai faintly. "What are you running away from?" "I'm not running away." Yang Kai shook his head and said casually, "If I were to return to the central capital, I would have to shoulder everything. Qiu Yimeng and the others would only regard me as the backbone of the family and would have no opinions of their own. If I weren't there, they would be able to exert their abilities and act as the patriarchs of the 8 great families." Moreover, Yang Kai also needed time to think things over and sort out his thoughts. That was why he hid overseas for half a year. "Do you want to fade out of the central capital?" Xianxia Luo asked thoughtfully, understanding the meaning behind Yang Kai's words. "You could say that." Yang Kai didn't deny it. "Because I'm afraid that I'll have to leave soon. I've given them too much to rely on. Once I leave, it won't be good for them." "Where are you going?" The beguiling demon queen suddenly became nervous. She didn't know why, but she had a feeling that once Yang Kai left, they would never see each other again. Involuntarily, her heart was filled with sadness. "I'll tell you when the time comes." Yang Kai smiled slightly, "But since you've come here today, I should return to the central capital and take a look." As he spoke, he suddenly turned to the side and said, "Elder Han, since you're here, why don't you show yourself?" Shanqing Luo pursed her lips and smiled, her beautiful eyes also turning in the same direction, her expression calm. Han Chao had arrived a long time ago. Almost as soon as Shanqing Luo arrived, he had also arrived. However, the sudden appearance of such an enchanting woman like Shanqing Luo on ancient Cloud Island had inevitably alerted Han Chao, so he had secretly hidden himself and spied on them. He had wanted to figure out the identity of Shanqing Luo. However, he hadn't expected that this woman had already noticed his aura. Han Chao was shocked, only now realizing that the other party's strength was much higher than his. Otherwise, how could she have seen through his concealment? Not even thinking about it, his figure flickered and he fled. At the same time, he issued a loud whistle, quickly conveying his intentions. Yang Kai wore a helpless expression as he shot a glance towards Shanqing Luo. Shanqing Luo waved her hand and sent out a strand of energy that wrapped around Han Chao, who had been sent flying into the air. Ping. Han Chao fell to the ground, his yuan qi imprisoned in his body. When he got up again, his eyes trembled violently as he stared at Shanqing Luo in disbelief, calling out, "Above Immortal Ascension Boundary?" Han Chao was an Immortal Ascension Boundary 7-stage cultivator. Even a peak Immortal Ascension Boundary Master wouldn't be able to completely imprison him with a single strike. Only an above Immortal Ascension Boundary Master could accomplish this. Han Chao wasn't stupid and immediately guessed Shanqing Luo's true cultivation. His heart suddenly panicked. He didn't know why this enchanting woman with such extraordinary strength had suddenly come to ancient Cloud Island. Yang Kai walked over to him and stood 10 meters in front of him, staring at him calmly. "Release him." Yang Kai ordered the beguiling demon queen. Shanqing Luo pursed her lips and with a single thought, the spider silk binding Han Chao disappeared. Han Chao stared at Shanqing Luo with a look of dread, his heart uneasy. Realizing that the other party wasn't hostile, he couldn't help relaxing, hesitating for a moment before asking, "Who are you and why have you come to my ancient Cloud Island?" "She's looking for me," Yang Kai replied. "Elder Han doesn't need to be nervous, she won't harm ancient Cloud Island." "Looking for you?" Han Chao was dumbfounded, staring at this seemingly ordinary registered disciple in front of him in shock, his mind unable to process what was happening. Since Yang Kai entered ancient Cloud Island, his appearance had been ordinary, without any trace of cultivation, leading Han Chao to think he was just an ordinary fisherman. Because of Zhong Miao's request, he had agreed to let Yang Kai live on ancient Cloud Island and take care of his peacock, but he hadn't expected that such a person would actually cause an above Immortal Ascension Boundary Master to come looking for him. At this moment, this above Immortal Ascension Boundary Master was completely subservient to him. What is his identity? Looking at Yang Kai again, Han Chao seemed to see a vague and huge mountain-like shadow behind him, one that made him feel heavy and unstoppable. As he spoke, the sound of fluttering clothes came from the distance. It was Han Chao calling out to ancient Cloud Island's island master, Gu Feng, as well as several elders. Gu Feng was a tall and sturdy man with a sturdy face. He had a peak Immortal Ascension Boundary cultivation, and most of the other elders were Immortal Ascension Boundary 8th stage or 9th stage cultivators. These elders were the foundation of ancient Cloud Island and were its most powerful group of masters. "Elder Han, what's the matter?" As soon as Gu Feng arrived, he asked in a stern voice. The other elders were also filled with vigilance, their faces filled with hostility. Not waiting for Han Chao to answer, Gu Feng's eyes suddenly lit up as he stared at Shanqing Luo, a look of excitement flashing across his face as he called out, "Is there such a woman in this world?" Not only was Gu Feng attracted, but the other elders were also dazzled. Shanqing Luo's charm and allure were irresistible as long as one was a man. As he spoke, Gu Feng laughed. "Where did Elder Han find such a woman? Island Master has accepted her. Taking her as a concubine is not bad." Saying so, he rushed towards Shanqing Luo. "Island Master, you can't." Han Chao's face instantly turned green as he hurriedly tried to stop him. Pring. A muffled sound rang out, and before anyone could react, Gu Feng was sent flying like a cannonball, letting out a panicked scream as he crashed into the nearby territory, splashing water everywhere. No one knew how he was sent flying, only vaguely seeing Shanqing Luo's hand move slightly. And above Immortal Ascension Boundary Master? The several elders exclaimed at the same time, their faces filled with shock, no longer daring to underestimate Shanqing Luo. Han Chao's jaw dropped as he stared towards the spot where Gu Feng had fallen, cold sweat dripping down his forehead. It's over! The Island Master had actually dared to flirt with an above Immortal Ascension Boundary Master. Today, ancient Cloud Island would likely be bathed in blood and be completely wiped out. Elders, if anyone dares to covet my woman again, it won't be as simple as just being sent flying. Yang Kai stepped forward and coldly glared at the masters of ancient Cloud Island. The sound of grinding teeth rang out, causing Han Chao to be stunned for a moment before he suddenly recovered and quickly nodded, "Understood." At the same time, the doubts in his heart became even stronger. This young man actually said that this enchanting woman was his woman? The other party didn't deny it either. What was going on? Quietly glancing over at Shanqing Luo, Han Chao was surprised to find that her face was filled with happiness and joy. If this Han may be so bold, may I ask what your excellency has come to my ancient Cloud Island for? Han Chao felt a chill run down his spine as he courageously asked. The other party had been lurking on ancient Cloud Island since half a year ago, only revealing his ferocious face today. What did he want? What could ancient Cloud Island possibly have that could catch the eye of such a monster? The other elders' hearts were also filled with anxiety, none of them even having the courage to rescue the island master who had fallen into the sea. I just accidentally fell here. I don't want to do anything to ancient Cloud Island. Please rest assured, Elder Han. Yang Kai hesitated for a moment before continuing. Good, now I need to see Li Yuan Chun. Which one of you can help me find him? Li Yuan Chun? Han Chao frowned, but immediately reacted and exclaimed, Supreme Solitary Sects Senior Li. He should have returned to Supreme Solitary Sect by now, right? Yang Kai asked. A month after that battle, Li Yuan Chun and the Endless Sea Island's great sects couldn't find you, so they left the central capital. Shanqing Luo replied softly. It's good that he's back. Yang Kai nodded slightly before turning to look at Han Chao. Han Chao broke out in a cold sweat. Your Excellency, please forgive me, this Han doesn't even know your true identity. How can I meet with Senior Li? What's more, a great force like Supreme Solitary Sect is not something we can casually step into, and Senior Li is even more respected. I'm afraid I won't be able to invite him. If your Excellency really has something to discuss with Senior Li, why don't you go to Supreme Solitary Sect in person? He couldn't wait to send Yang Kai away. You only need to tell him that Yang Kai wants to see him. Whether he comes or not, that's his business. Why aren't you going? Shanqing Luo glared at him and shouted. Yes. Han Chao braced himself and nodded before flying off in the direction of Supreme Solitary Sect. The pressure he felt here was too strong, and everything he saw and heard was beyond the scope of Han Chao's understanding. He also wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. As he flew, a cold wind blew, and Han Chao realized that his back was wet. After Han Chao left, the remaining elders exchanged glances with each other. One of them, seeming to be the wiser one among them, said, Before Elder Han returns, Your Excellency might as well condescend to the Healing Spirit Temple and rest for a while so we can show you the hospitality of a good host. Yang Kai nodded gently. Please. Chapter 598. Inside the Healing Spirit Temple, Yang Kai sat at the head of the table while Shanqing Luo stood to his left and right, like two beautiful maidservants, a feast for the eyes. The several elders of ancient Cloud Island sat below, each of them wearing a cautious expression, not even glancing around. A maid served them tea and the several elders exchanged a few words, but upon discovering that Yang Kai didn't like to speak, all of them fell silent awkwardly. This silent and strange atmosphere made everyone feel a great pressure, all of them staring towards the door, spreading out their divine senses, praying that Han Chao would return soon. After waiting for a full 2 hours, Han Chao was still nowhere to be seen. The several elders felt as if there was a thorn in their back, their palms sweating profusely, but they had no choice but to sit here and wait. Outside the hall, Gu Feng poked his head out, a look of fear on his face, hesitation filling his face. Previously, he had been tempted by Xianxia Luo, but he had not expected that she would send him flying with a single blow, causing him to almost faint on the spot. After returning to ancient Cloud Island, Gu Feng learned that this woman had entered the Healing Spirit Temple. Unable to guess her identity and origin, Gu Feng didn't dare to rush in, secretly blaming himself for having eyes but failing to see, actually daring to have thoughts about such a woman. All of a sudden, Gu Feng suddenly felt two auras rapidly approaching each other. Looking up, Gu Feng saw Han Chao and Supreme Solitary Sects Li Yuanchun flying over. Gu Feng was overjoyed, his face filled with respect and worship, but before he could even greet Li Yuanchun, he heard the other side angrily shout, "Gu Feng, how dare you?" What? Gu Feng was dumbfounded, not understanding why this Supreme Solitary Sects Senior Li would suddenly question him like this. In a flash, Li Yuanchun had already arrived in front of him, stretched out his hand, and slapped him a dozen times, causing Gu Feng to become dizzy, his face swollen black and blue. "This is just a small lesson," Li Yuanchun said coldly. "How you'll be dealt with will depend on that young lord's mood. You'd best pray you can live to see the sun tomorrow." "Senior Li." Gu Feng touched his swollen cheek and stared at Li Yuanchun in confusion. In his mind, since Li Yuanchun had come to ancient Cloud Island, he would naturally stand on his side. After all, they were all part of the Endless Sea Islands. With him here to fight against this enchanting woman, the other party wouldn't be able to cause any trouble. However, Li Yuanchun's first sect master had no other choice. Even though he was treated like this, Gu Feng didn't feel the slightest resentment, because in the Endless Sea Islands, Supreme Solitary Sect was the largest sect. The three above Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters of Supreme Solitary Sect were legendary existences in the Endless Sea Islands. Ordinary cultivators would find it difficult to even meet one of them. Today, Li Yuanchun taking the initiative to set foot on Ancient Cloud Island was already giving Ancient Cloud Island a great deal of face. Sects Immortal. Just now, when he went to the Greater One sect to ask Li Yuanchun to come out, as he expected, he was stopped outside the Greater One sect. No matter what he said, the Greater One sect disciples would not let him in. In desperation, Han Chao could only force his way in, but the result was that he was instantly captured by the sect elders. The commotion finally alarmed the Supreme Sect's elders. After Han Chao explained the whole story, one of the sect elders immediately untied him and hurriedly called for Li Yuanchun. Among the group of Endless Sea Islands disciples heading to the central capital, there were no Ancient Cloud Island disciples because they had already obtained the sect's hallowed artifact, the Broken Moon Transformation Art, so there was no need for them to go to the central capital. However, among that group of Endless Sea Islands disciples were from Supreme Sect. Ancient Cloud Islands disciples weren't clear about the identities of Yang Kai and Xianxia Luo, but those from Supreme Sect were. As soon as Li Yuanchun heard that Yang Kai had come, he flew over in a hurry, constantly scolding Han Chao along the way, saying that his words were incoherent and that he didn't understand the main point, nearly ruining this important matter. Seeing Li Yuanchun's solemn demeanor, Han Chao realized how unusual the identities of Yang Kai and Xianxia Luo were. At this moment, even his own island master had been beaten. It was obvious how much weight this man and woman held in Li Yuanchun's heart. What kind of background did they have? Why did Senior Li treat them so seriously? "Come with this old master, you bastard!" Li Yuanchun shouted angrily as he stepped into the Divine Healing Temple. Gu Feng touched his cheek and didn't say a word, following behind Li Yuanchun with an extremely aggrieved expression. Han Chao sniffled and also followed. Inside the temple, everyone had heard the commotion outside. The several elders of Ancient Cloud Island all wore awkward expressions, but since the one who had beaten their island master was Li Yuanchun, they naturally didn't dare to hold any grudges. However, when they turned to look at Yang Kai and Xianxia Luo, their expressions inadvertently became dignified and respectful. Yang Kai, on the other hand, couldn't help laughing. Li Yuanchun beating Gu Feng like this was obviously trying to resolve the grievances in his heart and also to protect Gu Feng. Because he knew that if he didn't handle this matter well, he would directly destroy ancient Cloud Island. Although it was shameful to be beaten, it was still better than being killed. Yang Kai shook his head, thinking that Li Yuanchun was being overly sensitive. He didn't have any intention of haggling over this matter. Hearty laughter came from outside as Li Yuanchun quickly walked into the Divine Healing Temple. After seeing Yang Kai enter, his eyes couldn't help lighting up as he happily called out, "Sure enough, young Master Yang has graced us with his presence." This old master knew that with young Master Yang's means, you must have been blessed by the heavens since ancient times. It is impossible for you to die so young. Now that I have seen young Master Yang safe and sound, this old master is relieved. Many thanks for Senior Li's concern. Yang Kai was also lucky enough to escape this calamity. Yang Kai stood up and greeted him with a smile. "Young Lady Shan." Li Yuanchun cupped his fists towards Shanqing Luo. "Senior Li is too polite." Shanqing Luo gracefully bowed. Seeing Yang Kai and Li Yuanchun greet each other as if they were old friends, the several elders of ancient Cloud Island couldn't help glancing around at each other in confusion. Li Yuanchun's status in the Endless Sea Islands was extremely respected. Even Gu Feng had to be obedient in front of him, yet this young man actually greeted him so casually. What kind of background does he have? All the elders were even more surprised. "You bunch of blind fools." Li Yuanchun's old face suddenly became serious as he scolded the crowd. "Do you know who this young lord is? Please enlighten us, Senior Li." All the elders respectfully said. "This is the young lord of the Central Capital's Yang family, the patriarch of the Yang family." Central Capital's Yang family? Exclamations sounded as the gazes towards Yang Kai suddenly became somewhat different. "Last time, when we went to the mainland, your ancient Cloud Island didn't participate, so you don't know the details. This old master doesn't blame you, but you should have heard that the Central Capital's Yang family has produced a rare genius, and that genius is the young lord in front of you." Li Yuanchun laughed strangely. "The Yang family has more than 20 top above Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters under their command. You're quite interesting, actually allowing young Lord Yang to become a registered disciple here and raise peacocks. Just how noble are those peacocks? Why would young Lord Yang raise them? Han Chao, do you admit your crime?" Han Chao broke out in a cold sweat and quickly stepped forward, trembling as he said, "Senior Li, I didn't know this young Lord Yang's background was so great. I thought he was just an ordinary fisherman." "You thought?" Li Yuanchun sneered, "Short-sighted. Senior Li, please calm your anger." Han Chao grit his teeth and grit his teeth. "Later, this Han will go and kill those peacocks." "That won't be necessary." Yang Kai shook his head faintly. "I just wanted to conceal my identity and find peace here for half a year. It's not Elder Han's fault." "Many thanks, young Lord Yang. Many thanks, young Lord Yang." Han Chao was moved to tears. Although those peacocks weren't precious, to Han Chao, they were more important than his life. If he had to kill them, he wouldn't be able to bear it, so when he heard Yang Kai defend him like this, he was naturally grateful. "Since young Lord Yang says so, I won't hold you responsible. Gu Feng, get up here." Li Yuanchun turned his head and glared at the ancient Cloud Island master. Junior knows his wrongs. Gu Feng didn't wait for Li Yuanchun to question him and took the initiative to admit his mistake. "If Senior Li wants to punish me, Junior will not complain." As he spoke, Gu Feng glanced up at the Shanqing Luo above him and shuddered, quickly averting his eyes. "Bastard!" Li Yuanchun laughed in anger. "You think you can settle this peacefully just because you say so? What a joke. I think you don't want to be Island Master anymore. If you really don't want to be Island Master, just say the word and this old master will send you on your way." Gu Feng trembled in fear and didn't say a word. "Senior Li, these are all trivial matters. There's no need to pursue them." Yang Kai tried to mediate, not wanting to make things too awkward. In the end, this matter was caused by him hiding his identity and staying here for half a year. Although Gu Feng had eyes but failed to see, it wasn't to the point where Yang Kai would take offense. Li Yuanchun hesitated for a moment before nodding gently. Since young Lord Yang says so, then let's turn big things into small ones and small ones into nothing. Gu Feng also hurriedly said, many thanks for young Lord Yang's magnanimity. Yang Kai gently nodded, no longer saying anything, instead turning to Li Yuanchun and saying, Senior, this time I called Senior here, Senior should know why I called you here, right? Li Yuanchun smiled happily and nodded quickly, I know. When this old master heard that young Lord Yang had come to the Endless Sea Islands, he had already guessed why you had come here. Young Lord Yang is truly a man of his word. On behalf of all the Endless Sea Islands sects, this old master thanks young Lord Yang for his great kindness. You're too polite, since I said before that I would return everything to you after passing this crisis. Naturally I won't go back on my word. Li Yuanchun smiled happily and said, please wait a moment, young Lord Yang. Before this old master came here, he had already sent a message to all the Endless Sea Islands sects. I'm afraid it won't be long before all of them arrive. There's no need to rush. Yang Kai smiled lightly. After the previous small grievances were resolved, the atmosphere inside Healing Temple was harmonious. The elders of ancient Cloud Island also realized the terrifying power in Yang Kai's hands and didn't dare underestimate him in the slightest, ordering the servants to prepare a banquet and raising their glasses to toast him. Yang Kai didn't refuse any of them and began drinking to his heart's content. Soon, everyone discovered that this Yang family young lord actually didn't put on any airs. As long as one treated him well, he would be very easy to talk to. This discovery caused everyone to become even more eager to curry favor with Yang Kai, hoping to establish a good relationship with him. Chapter 599. Toasts were exchanged as everyone toasted each other. Even Shanqing Luo and Bai Luo drank a little. After the beguiling demon queen drank a few glasses of wine, she became even more radiant, her seductive aura so thick that no one dared to look directly into her eyes. After 3 rounds of drinking, the people from the Endless Sea Islands sects finally arrived. Azura sects Yiji, Falling Flowers sects Hua Duan Hun, Scarlet Lotus sects Su Qian Hao, Cloud Dragon Island, Gemini Island. A large group of people arrived at Ancient Cloud Island. The various sects from the Endless Sea Islands had all sent their best men, almost all of those who had gone to the central capital last time. Gu Feng observed carefully and was surprised to find that when these famous Endless Sea Islands characters faced Yang Kai, their attitude was extremely respectful. Inevitably, he felt a mixture of relief and fear, the last trace of resentment and dissatisfaction in his heart disappearing. These people's status in the Endless Sea Islands was no lower than Gu Feng's, some even stronger than him, but even they were so docile in front of this young Master Yang, how could Gu Feng be qualified to act against them? After a short conversation, Gu Feng learned that the reason Ancient Cloud Island was able to find the Broken Moon transformation art last time was because of Yang Kai, so Gu Feng didn't have anything to say. Finding a sect-hallowed scripture that had been lost for 300 years was tantamount to Yang Kai giving Ancient Cloud Island a huge favor. Supreme Solitary Sects Supreme Solitary Seal, Falling Flowers Sects Thousand Blossoming Blood Begonia, Azura Sects Azura Sword, Scarlet Lotus Sects Sect Masters Jade Pendant, Cloud Dragon Islands Cloud Dragon Ancient Book, Gemini Islands Resurrection Diagram. One by one these treasures were taken out by Yang Kai. Everyone's breathing suddenly became hot as they stared at these hallowed treasures with burning eyes, their expressions filled with excitement. Yang Kai didn't say anything and simply returned these things that belonged to the Endless Sea Islands sects one by one. I've refined the Azura Sword and Thousand Blossoming Blood Begonia, but I haven't used anything else. If you're still worried, feel free to inspect them. Yang Kai said with a smile. Relax, relax. How could we be worried about young Master Yang? Li Yuanchun laughed. Although these things were good, their grades weren't too high, they weren't Yang Kai's worth. Li Yuanchun was well aware of this. The others also expressed that they didn't need to check. They were completely confident in Yang Kai. After receiving these treasures that had been lost for more than 300 years, everyone was deeply grateful and thanked him profusely. Young Master Yang, the Endless Sea Islands great sects have received a great favor from you this time. Just come overseas and let me know. I don't dare to say too much, but I can guarantee that the sects present will come at any time. Li Yuanchun sincerely said. He was not only grateful to Yang Kai for returning the lost treasures of the overseas sects for so many years, but more importantly, he valued Yang Kai's potential. Although there was not much connection between the mainland and overseas, it would be beneficial for them to have a good relationship with Yang Kai. When the time comes, I won't be polite. Yang Kai laughed. That's for the best. Now that this matter is settled, I will take my leave, Yang Kai said and stood up. He was preparing to leave. Li Yuanchun was startled and asked in amazement, Young Master Yang is leaving? This old master wanted to invite young Master Yang to visit Supreme Solitary Sect. I appreciate Senior's kindness, but since that battle, I haven't returned to the central capital. Now I want to go back and have a look around. Is that so? Li Yuanchun showed a look of regret. Then this old master won't stay any longer. I'll see you off. If you have a chance to visit the Endless Sea Islands again, you must visit my Supreme Solitary Sect. Certainly. Yang Kai said politely. A large group of people followed Yang Kai out of the healing temple, causing the ancient Cloud Island disciples to look over and whisper amongst themselves, wondering what had happened here that had attracted so many Master Realm Masters. When they saw Kai Yang, who was surrounded by a myriad of stars surrounding the moon, many of the ancient Cloud Island disciples looked at him strangely. Many of them had seen Yang Kai before and knew that Yang Kai was helping Elder Han Chao raise peacocks, but they couldn't understand why this ordinary disciple had suddenly transformed. He had become an honored guest of these Endless Sea Islands masters. Moreover, from the looks on these masters' faces, it was obvious they were quite respectful towards Yang Kai, all of them smiling politely at him. Not far away, a young girl with a slightly freckled face was looking for something with a confused look on her face. After noticing the commotion here, she also ran over to see what was going on, but after a single glance, the young girl was stunned, because she found that her junior brother, who had been with her for half a year, was now calmly chatting with these Master Realm Masters from the Endless Sea Islands. Not only did he not show the slightest sign of fear, he even seemed to be at ease. These Master Realm Masters were also chatting and laughing with him as they walked towards the entrance. The young girl blinked her big eyes, her mind unable to process what was happening. When these people walked up to her, she actually rushed out of the crowd and stood in front of them, staring blankly at Yang Kai. Li Yuanchun frowned, not knowing what this young female disciple from ancient Cloud Island wanted to do, so he couldn't help glancing over at Gu Feng. Gu Feng quickly shouted angrily, "Don't be rude, get out of the way." Zhong Miao was at a loss of what to do, unable to understand the current situation, so after being reprimanded by the island master, she became even more flustered. At a loss, she stared blankly at Yang Kai, her tender body trembling as she muttered, "Junior brother, what happened? Why are you?" After speaking for a long time, she still couldn't form a complete sentence. Shanqing Luo smiled lightly as she stared calmly at Yang Kai, secretly wondering how he would deal with this situation. Impudence! Gu Feng shouted anxiously. Not only did they not know Yang Kai's true identity, but they even treated the patriarch of the Yang family as an ordinary person, making him a peacock breeder disciple. This was an absolute mistake on ancient Cloud Island's part. Now that he knew Yang Kai's identity, Gu Feng wanted to wait for him to leave so he could erase all traces of his existence on ancient Cloud Island so as to avoid making a fool of himself, but at this critical moment, Zhong Miao jumped out and even dared to call him junior brother. How could this be? Come, take this woman away and send her to the Zhongyan cave. Gu Feng shouted angrily. Zhong Miao's body went soft and she almost fell to the ground. The Zhongyan cave was a place with high temperatures all year round. Even an immortal ascension boundary master would find it difficult to survive in such a place. Once a disciple like her was locked inside, it wouldn't take more than 3 or 5 minutes before they would be roasted to death. She had never expected that an unintentional action of hers would actually cause the island master to fly into such a rage and punish her so severely. The young girl's heart was instantly filled with fear and horror. 2 ancient Cloud Island disciples obeyed the order and quickly stepped forward. There were even some disciples who looked down on Zhong Miaoku, all of them showing gloating expressions. If it weren't for Zhong Miao's fortuitous encounter in the past, she would just be an ordinary disciple now, but because Yang Kai had left her a letter, she had made a great contribution and was promoted to elite disciple. This caused many people to feel jealous and envious, thinking that with her aptitude and talent, she wasn't worthy of being an elite disciple. Now that they saw her get into trouble, naturally they were secretly happy. Yang Kai carefully observed the situation and couldn't help feeling a little annoyed. Over the past 6 months, Zhong Miao had given him a very good impression. This little girl was kind and didn't like to cause trouble, so she spent most of her time cultivating in the remote corner where the peacocks were kept. Although she didn't have any aptitude or talent, this kind of hard work was something most people didn't have. Although Yang Kai was annoyed, in the end, this was someone else's territory, so naturally he couldn't vent his anger. Hesitating for a moment, Yang Kai said, "Island Master, please wait, she and I are indeed senior sister. She didn't call me wrongly, there is no need to punish her." Gu Feng was slightly embarrassed and cupped his fists. Young Master Yang must be joking. Before, it was ancient Cloud Island who had eyes but failed to see. Now that we are fortunate enough to know young Master Yang's identity, how could we dare treat her as a disciple of ancient Cloud Island? However, since young Master Yang has pleaded, this time we will let her go. Yang Kai nodded with satisfaction. Gu Feng wasn't a fool. Although Yang Kai had only said a few words, he could see that this young Master Yang was actually quite protective of Zhong Miao. "Senior sister, come here." Yang Kai wore a kind smile on his face as he beckoned to Zhong Miao slightly. Zhong Miao's pair of beautiful eyes flashed with crystal-clear tears, a look of lingering fear on her pretty face. Facing Yang Kai's summons, she hesitated for a moment before finally reacting. Obediently walking over, she glanced around, then glancing at one another, shrinking her head and hiding behind Yang Kai as she muttered, "What's going on?" "Senior sister, don't be afraid." Yang Kai comforted her before turning to Li Yuanchun and saying, "Senior, for the past 6 months, I have been living with this senior sister." Li Yuanchun's brow rose slightly, his expression somewhat ambiguous. Yang Kai coughed dryly, "It's not what you think. It's just that during the battle half a year ago, I somehow fell into the sea and was rescued by senior sister in the nearby territory. Speaking of which, senior sister has saved my life." Li Yuanchun was surprised, never having expected that this seemingly ordinary young girl would actually save Yang Kai's life. Feeling greatly relieved, he turned to Zhong Miao and said, "Since she is young Master Yang's savior, she is also the benefactor of my endless sea island sects." Yi Feng nodded firmly. If Zhong Miao hadn't saved Yang Kai, they would never have been able to obtain the treasures they had lost 300 years ago. "This little girl has done a great deed." Hua Duanhun giggled, her tender body swaying as she stepped forward and asked, "What is this little girl's name?" "Zhong Miao, a good name." Hua Duanhun's beautiful eyes lit up, seemingly not expecting this little girl to have such a pleasant name despite her ordinary appearance. "Would you like to join my Falling Flowers Temple? As long as you nod, I can make the decision to give you the identity of a Falling Flowers envoy." Zhong Miao was shocked as she stared at Hua Duanhun in surprise. There were 4 fallen flower emissaries in the Falling Flower God sect, and each of them had a very respectable status. They were the people with the highest status under the sect master. Since the unfortunate death of one of the Fallen Flower emissaries a few years ago, there had been a vacancy in the Falling Flower God sect. Countless disciples in the sect had been fighting for this position, but there had been no one. Unexpectedly, today, Hua Duanhun actually gave Zhong Miao such a generous offer, only allowing her to join the Falling Flowers Temple. Chapter 600. Hua Duanhun's offer not only caused Zhong Miao's beautiful face to go pale, but even the expressions of the others also became strange. Yi Ji, Su Qianhao, and the others pondered for a moment before suddenly coming to a realization, secretly cursing Hua Duanhun in their hearts for being so cunning and bold. all of them sincerely hoping that Zhong Miao would join Azura sect or Scarlet Lotus sect with the promise of great benefits and the position of elder in their respective sects. The people from Cloud Dragon Island and Gemini Island also quickly issued similar offers. In an instant, all the elders from the 5 great sects stared at Zhong Miao eagerly, their eyes filled with expectation, as if at this moment, Zhong Miao had become a rare genius and all these sects had opened their doors to her. Zhong Miao was dumbfounded, and so were the disciples of ancient Cloud Island who had just been gloating, their moods suddenly becoming particularly delicate, filled with envy and jealousy. But why was this mediocre disciple able to make so many sects throw out olive branches to him? Island Master. Han Chao quietly poked Gu Feng and winked at him. Gu Feng was startled and regained his senses. He said with a warm and angry face, "You guys, what you're doing is wrong. Zhong Miao is a disciple of my ancient Cloud Island. You're trying to poach my ancient Cloud Island's disciple in front of me. Do you think I, Gu Feng, am dead?" Hee hee. Hua Duan Hun giggled and said, "Island Master Gu, what are you saying? Didn't you just want to throw this little girl into the Zhangyan cave? In any case, you don't care about her life or death, so why don't you make things convenient and let her follow me into my Falling Flower Spirit Temple? I'll definitely train her well so her aptitude won't be wasted." And Island Master Gu should make things more convenient. Su Qianhao smiled. No, Zhong Miao is a disciple of my ancient Cloud Island, and even if she dies, she will be a ghost of my ancient Cloud Island, no one can take her away. Gu Feng shook his head like a rattle drum and refused. By now, he could see that Zhong Miao held some weight in Yang Kai's heart, so he had no choice but to hold on to her. This was tantamount to holding on to her friendship with Yang Kai. This matter is up to this little girl herself, Island Master Gu. What you say is not up to you. Just because she used to be a disciple of ancient Cloud Island, you can't decide her future. Hua Duan Hun snorted lightly, turning a gentle gaze towards Zhong Miao Ku as he softly said, "Little girl, don't worry. Little girl, don't be afraid. Little girl, which sect do you want to join? Can rest assured whatever you choose. No one will make things difficult for you. Calm." Hua Duan sect disciple. Hua's Hua Duan would. Zhong Miao panicked, lowering her head, not daring to speak. She couldn't help leaning closer to Yang Kai. He seemed to be looking for some safety. She had always been taking care of Peacock in a remote corner of ancient Cloud Island, immersing herself in cultivation, so when had she ever seen such a huge scene? She couldn't help but suddenly meow Chio. "There's no need to argue," Li Yuan Chun suddenly said majestically. "This old master has been looking for a disciple in secluded retreat for many years. Unfortunately, I haven't found a suitable candidate. Today, I finally found one, so don't try to compete with this old master." Senior. Gu Feng and the others were shocked, all of them staring at Li Yuan Chun in shock. Listening to the meaning of Li Yuan Chun's words, it seemed that he intended to accept Zhong Miao as his disciple. This was a big deal. Supreme Solitary Sects 3 above Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters were all ancestors in the Endless Sea Islands, while the other 2 had their own direct disciples. Only Li Yuan Chun did not. Over the years, he had indeed been looking for a suitable disciple, but unfortunately, there was no one in the Endless Sea Islands that could enter his eyes. Unexpectedly, Zhong Miao was lucky enough to obtain this opportunity today. This old master wants to accept her as his disciple. Li Yuan Chun gently nodded. When this sentence was spoken, not only did the eyes of the ancient Cloud Island disciples turn red with envy, even Gu Feng and the others couldn't help staring at Zhong Miao with envy. With the guidance of an above Immortal Ascension Boundary Master, they could already see a bright future for Zhong Miao. "Little girl, are you willing to become this old master's disciple?" Li Yuan Chun asked Zhong Miao kindly. Zhong Miao's face flushed red with excitement, seemingly flustered, but suddenly she took a deep breath, her full chest puffing up as she softly said, "But this junior is a disciple of ancient Cloud Island, Gu Feng." Li Yuan Chun turned to look at Gu Feng and sneered. "This old master wants to accept her as a disciple. Do you have any objections?" Gu Feng quickly waved his hand. "Senior wouldn't dare. To be chosen by Senior is her blessing. how could Gu Feng dare have any objections? Saying so, he turned to Zhong Miao and said, "From now on, you are no longer a member of my ancient Cloud Island. Now that you are under Senior Li's command, you must be filial to him. You must never betray your sect or betray your sect. Do you understand?" "Disciple will remember." Zhong Miao nodded firmly. Li Yuanchun laughed heartily. When these people were fighting over Zhong Miao, Yang Kai didn't say anything, just quietly watching. After the dust settled, he said, "Congratulations, senior sister, for meeting such a great master. Junior brother will give you a small gift." "No need." Zhong Miao quickly waved her hand. "A gift from young Master Yang. I must accept it. I can't refuse young Master Yang." Li Yuanchun quickly said, his expression tense, fearing Zhong Miao would refuse. Yang Kai smiled lightly, took out a small water nan, and handed it to Zhong Miao, whispering softly, "Take a drop of this thing every day, take it back and give it to Senior Li for safekeeping. Consider it my thanks to you for saving my life." Zhong Miao accepted the small nan and stared at it, her pretty face filled with confusion, not knowing what Yang Kai had given her that made him so solemn. Looking up, Zhong Miao was startled as she saw many people staring at the small nan in her hand with burning eyes, as if they had discovered some kind of incredible treasure. "Young Master Yang can rest assured, since this is a gift from you to my disciple, this old master can guarantee that no one but her can use it," Li Yuanchun said in a deep voice. "Very good." Yang Kai nodded with satisfaction, feeling quite assured about Li Yuanchun's character. Saying these words in front of so many people was tantamount to expressing his attitude. "Everyone, please wait, this junior will take his leave now." Yang Kai cupped his fists, nodded gently to Shanqing Luo, and then flew up into the air with her, leaving like a bolt of lightning. Looking at his gradually disappearing back and remembering everything they had seen in the central capital, the endless sea island's great sects all felt their mood fluctuate. "Senior, what kind of person is my junior brother?" Zhong Miao's eyes were slightly blurred. Even now, she still couldn't understand how this junior brother of hers, who had lived with her for half a year, had suddenly become a big shot that everyone had to treat with respect and respect. "You still call me senior?" Li Yuanchun stroked his beard and smiled slightly. "Master?" Zhong Miao said somewhat embarrassedly. This junior brother of yours is the head of the central capital's 8 great families, the Yang family's patriarch. Half a year ago, it was under his leadership that the central capital was able to resist the invasion of the ash-gray cloud evil land and kill all those bandits. "He's that amazing?" Zhong Miao didn't have much experience, so when she heard Li Yuanchun say this, she could only let out a small sigh. Gu Feng suddenly interjected, "Speaking of which, you and him seem to have quite a bit of fate. A few years ago, it was he who stabbed that letter into your door with a dagger and told us the whereabouts of the Broken Moon transformation art. A few years later, you rescued him from the sea. Isn't that good karma?" Zhong Miao's pretty face changed as she cried out, "It's him? It's him, didn't he tell you?" Gu Feng asked curiously. Zhong Miao choked up, her shoulders trembling as she stared in the direction Yang Kai disappeared, her heart filled with a huge sense of loss and annoyance. Moving as fast as lightning, the surrounding scenery quickly passed by. Yang Kai, Shanqing Luo, and Bai Luo's group of 3 quickly approached the central capital. Following behind Yang Kai, staring at his strong back, Shanqing Luo's eyes became slightly blurred and her breathing gradually became heavy. Perceiving her abnormality, Bai Luo quickly stepped forward and held her hand. Shanqing Luo slowly shook her head, indicating that she was fine, not daring to pay any more attention to Yang Kai. However, in her heart she was also a little surprised. Although this little boy was only an Immortal Ascension Boundary 6th stage cultivator, his flying speed was much faster than her own, and the purity and richness of his yuan qi was also greater than hers. Shanqing Luo didn't feel disappointed and instead felt a little proud. Without saying a word, the group flew forward for a few minutes. Shanqing Luo and Bai Luo, who were following behind Yang Kai, suddenly stopped. Perceiving this, Yang Kai also stopped, turned his head, and asked, "What's wrong?" Xianxia Luo gently gasped for breath, pursed her lips, and smiled. We'll part here. You have to go back to the central capital, but I am the beguiling demon queen, a remnant of the ash-gray cloud evil land, so naturally I have to return to Fragrant City. Yang Kai frowned and said, the ash-gray cloud evil land is no longer here. What are you worrying about? No one there will blame you. Xianxia Luo shook her head firmly. Yang Kai hesitated for a moment before nodding. Since that's the case, I won't force you. And once I've arranged things in the central capital, I'll come see you and solve the problem between you and me. I'll wait for you. Xianxia Luo smiled. Yang Kai nodded and left. After he left, after a while, Bai Luo sighed faintly. Master, is this okay? There's nothing wrong with it, as long as you don't hurt him. But the love in your heart. Bai Luo's eyes suddenly became red. Can you still suppress it now? If you can't suppress it, you'll only bring about your own destruction. He doesn't care about you at all, so why should you care about him? Let go of the shackles of your love and directly take his life, and all troubles. Bai Luo. Xianxia Luo gasped for breath, her face flushed red. Don't say such things. Let me end the tragedy of the poison widow bloodline. I can't allow it to be passed down from generation to generation, otherwise, my daughter will also suffer the same pain. This is the curse of the poison widow bloodline. Bai Luo's tears streamed down her cheeks as she stared bitterly towards the beguiling demon queen, her hatred for Yang Kai reaching a boiling point. Chapter 601. If it weren't for Yang Kai inadvertently leaving behind a seed of love in Xianxia Luo's heart, the Master Queen would not have suffered such torment. Now that the seed of love had fully matured, Xianxia Luo had to fully suppress it whenever she was with Yang Kai, otherwise the consequences would be disastrous. At that time, either Xianxia Luo or Yang Kai would die. Because of this, Bai Luo naturally hated Yang Kai very much. As the two of them were talking, a strange figure suddenly appeared mid-air and stared at them helplessly. Xianxia Luo stared at Yang Kai in shock. How did you come back? I knew you weren't in the right state right now. Yang Kai sighed softly. Xianxia Luo's abnormality was so obvious, how could he not have noticed it? Just now, he had only pretended to leave because he wanted to hear the true thoughts of this dragon lady. Yang Kai was somewhat moved by her persistence and consideration for him. It's good that you're back, Master. There's no need to suppress it. We'll take his life now, Bai Luo shouted, her eyes glaring at Yang Kai with hatred. You seem to have a lot of prejudice against me. Yang Kai glared at Bai Luo. That's right, Bai Luo snorted. I can't wait to peel off your skin, drink your blood, and eat your flesh. If it weren't for you, my master wouldn't have to suffer such hardships. Even without me, there would still be other men who would occupy her heart. This is the ultimate fate of the poison widow bloodline. Yang Kai coldly snorted. Bai Luo remained silent, not knowing how to respond. Hurry up and leave. Xianxia Luo's breathing became heavier and heavier. As early as half a year ago, the seed of love in her heart had almost fully matured, and after not seeing Yang Kai for more than half a year, her situation had improved slightly, but this time, she had been forced to come out to find Yang Kai and spend 3 days with him, so the impulse she had been suppressing had rebounded several times over. If we don't leave now, it will be too late. Yang Kai slowly shook his head, his expression resolute. The problem between you and me has to be solved eventually. Running away is not the solution. You delivered yourself to me on a silver platter. Bai Luo giggled as she twirled around, a brilliant light flashing from her body. Unknowingly. Hearing this, Bai Luo softly whispered, Master, the time has come, you no longer need to suppress yourself. At this moment, Bai Luo no longer had her previous arrogant and domineering demeanor, instead giving off a faint shadow of a seductive Xianxia Luo. Bai Luo also cultivated a beguiling technique. The target of the seduction technique was not Yang Kai. Instead, it was all used on Xianxia Luo. Bai Luo. Xianxia Luo struggled to resist the desires and impulses in her heart, but after being aroused by Bai Luo, the desire in her heart suddenly burst forth like a flood, drowning her consciousness in an instant. The feelings in her heart grew rapidly and her instinctive desire destroyed her persistence and protection of Yang Kai, leaving only a single thought in her mind. That was to possess Yang Kai. If she was a block of ice that would never melt. At this moment, Yang Kai was a burning flame, and Xianxia Luo couldn't help but want to approach him, seal him in ice, or melt herself. A soft moan burst from her throat as the beguiling demon queen's complexion flushed crimson, her slender white neck glowing with a porcelain-like luster, giving her a seductive appearance. Her eyes blurred as she stared towards Yang Kai, undisguised lust flashing in the depths of her beautiful eyes. The atmosphere around them suddenly changed, and in front of Yang Kai's eyes, there seemed to be countless beautiful young women dancing and singing. These young women were all coquettish, their figures graceful, their clothes half undone, their beautiful bodies shrouded in gauze, faintly discernible. They were doing their utmost to dissolute, circling around Yang Kai, trying to flatter him. Yang Kai's heart clenched. Xianxia Luo's beguiling technique seemed to have improved again. At this moment, she wasn't deliberately using it, but instead just being slightly aroused was enough to cause him to hallucinate. "Break!" Yang Kai coldly shouted, circulating his yin-yang joyous unification art. In front of him, these beautiful young women who seemed to yearn for more were all shattered, disappearing into thin air. "Hee hee!" Bai Luo giggled. "You bastard, just give up resisting, no man can resist my master's beguiling technique, Kiki." As she spoke, her two slender legs involuntarily clenched together, a warm current flowing through her lower abdomen. Her lower body was now covered in mud, and as a cold wind blew past her, she became more and more aroused, almost unable to suppress the impulse in her heart. She had also been greatly affected by Xianxia Luo's beguiling technique. "I'll deal with you later." Yang Kai glared at her coldly, his expression unkind. "We'll talk about it after you survive." Bai Luo gasped for breath, her tender body writhing uncontrollably, biting her red lower lip as she glared towards Yang Kai. It was as if she wanted to rush up and recklessly make love to Yang Kai, but she stubbornly held back. An exquisite little fan appeared in the beguiling demon queen's hand, the surface of this fan embroidered with images of handsome men and beautiful women. These handsome men and beautiful women's clothes were disheveled. Pairs after pairs were in the midst of doing the deed, their postures varied, but all of them had a look of joy on their faces, their hearts filled with joy, vivid and lifelike. "Qing Luo fan." Yang Kai coldly shouted. This artifact was a family heirloom passed down from generation to generation in Xianxia Luo's beguiling demon queen's beguiling technique. Its power was unimaginable. Xianxia Luo gracefully waved her fan, causing the men and women depicted on the fan to become more and more energetic, each of them seemingly coming to life and rushing into Yang Kai's mind. Asterisk pa 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 pa. Asterisk these illusions that rushed into Yang Kai's mind only lasted for a breath of time before they were all reduced to dust. The art of yin-yang joyous unification had the ability to destroy all beguiling techniques in the world, so Xianxia Luo's Qing Luo fan had no effect on Yang Kai. However, she did not notice this, and after displaying the power of the Qing Luo fan, Xianxia Luo giggled as she rushed towards Yang Kai, her scarlet tongue lightly touching her teeth as her chest heaved up and down violently. Stretching out her jade white hand, she grabbed Yang Kai's collar and dragged him in front of her, pressing her towering chest against Yang Kai's chest, her two slender legs wrapped around him as she opened her mouth and pressed her lips towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai's appetite was greatly aroused, wishing he could let go of all restraints right now and fight her for a few hundred rounds. However, once the beguiling demon queen was aroused, all her bodily fluids would contain a potent poison, one that no one could withstand. "You dragon lady!" Yang Kai smiled bitterly, reaching out and placing his hand behind Xianxia Luo's head, his yuan qi fiercely bursting forth. Xianxia Luo's eyes quickly lost their luster, and the erotic sounds that resounded throughout the world gradually subsided as she fell limply into Yang Kai's arms. Bai Luo had been waiting happily to witness this exciting scene, her two delicate hands involuntarily covering her breasts and gently kneading them, her face filled with pleasure, but upon seeing this scene, her beautiful face suddenly paled. "Get over here!" Yang Kai lifted Xianxia Luo onto his shoulder and grinned towards Bai Luo. What do you want to do? Bai Luo became vigilant and quickly retreated a few steps. What did you do to my master? I've already killed her, now it's your turn. Yang Kai sneered, his expression cold and ruthless. Bai Luo's eyes quickly filled with tears and she suddenly roared madly, "This old lady will kill you." Like an enraged beast, she rushed towards Yang Kai without any fear of death. Yang Kai simply stretched out his hand and subdued her. Carrying Xianxia Luo on his shoulder and placing Bai Luo on his arm, Yang Kai stretched out his other hand and slapped her round buttocks. *Bai Luo stiffened, inexplicably feeling a trace of shame and anger welling up in her heart, but at the same time, it was also quite stimulating. It seemed that this slap had stimulated the desire that had been buried deep in her heart for a long time, and she couldn't help but feel the pleasure of being ravaged. *Bai Luo finally cried out in alarm, constantly struggling and wriggling about, cursing out loud as she repeatedly punched and kicked Yang Kai. Yang Kai didn't ask any questions and simply sealed the true qi in her body before rhythmically slapping her again and again, his blows extremely heavy. Gradually, Bai Luo's cries stopped, and instead, with each slap she let out a series of lustful moans, as if she was at the mercy of Yang Kai's whims, her ears flushed red and her tender body burning hot. Yang Kai was stunned. Your sexual orientation? There's something wrong with it. None of your business. Quickly put this old lady down. Bai Luo suddenly recovered and shouted. A series of enchanting moans rang out again. One day later, ash-gray cloud evil land, fragrant city. Inside Xianxia Luo's palace, Yang Kai suddenly appeared with the beguiling demon queen and Bai Luo. The two beautiful women who had served Yang Kai before, Yunli, Ruoyu, and Ruoqing, rushed over upon hearing the news, and when they saw Yang Kai, they couldn't help feeling a little happy. However, when they saw the state of Xianxia Luo and Bai Luo at the moment, they couldn't help feeling surprised. Yang Kai put her down, and Bai Luo's body softened as she fell to the ground. Immediately after, she let out a soft cry and leapt up, her two small hands rubbing her buttocks as she grit her teeth and sucked in a deep breath. Bai Luo, what's wrong? Yunli hurriedly asked. I'm fine. Bai Luo replied submissively, her face flushed red as she glanced over at Yang Kai, her beautiful eyes filled with fear and dread, no longer showing any of her previous arrogance. After being slapped so many times along the way, her heart was filled with shadows. Where's Master? What happened to Master? Master she had an accident. Bai Luo's expression dimmed again. Let them rest first. Yang Kai said. Yunli, Ruoyu, and Ruoqing quickly supported Xianxia Luo and Bai Luo and sent them back to their rooms. Back at the Tranquil Phoenix Pavilion, Yang Kai lived here. In his room on the second floor, Yang Kai sat down cross-legged, his expression gloomy. The relationship between Xianxia Luo and him wasn't very deep, it was only because of the love between them that it had become somewhat difficult to resolve. Now, Yang Kai wanted to help Xianxia Luo resolve this feeling, but he had no clue how to do so, so he couldn't help feeling a little anxious. Chapter 602. Xianxia Luo's current situation wasn't due to poisoning, it was simply a matter of her special physique. Her 10,000 drug spirit definitely had no effect on her. After thinking about it for a while, Yang Kai could only leave Tranquil Phoenix Pavilion. Checking Xianxia Luo's condition, although her vital signs weren't seriously affected, with Yang Kai's Yuan Qi blocking her, Xianxia Luo wouldn't be able to wake up for a while. Her tender body was burning hot like a hot iron. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before the beguiling demon queen died. Even if she was a transcendent, she wouldn't be able to resist this fate. After instructing Yunli to take good care of her, Yang Kai went to find Bai Luo, wanting to inquire about the situation from her. Xianxia Luo's palace wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. After asking the maidservant where Bai Luo lived, Yang Kai walked towards it. Arriving at her room, Yang Kai gently knocked on the door, but there was no movement inside. Releasing his divine sense to investigate, Yang Kai found that Bai Luo was indeed inside, but her aura was even, so she should be asleep. After waiting for a while, Yang Kai pushed open the door and walked in. Glancing around, Yang Kai couldn't help smiling. Bai Luo was currently lying motionless on the bed, her body covered with a thin bedding that accentuated her exquisite and graceful curves. Her buttocks were arched high up in the air, giving her an enchanting appearance that was hard to fathom. Yang Kai didn't know if this was natural or if it was a result of being beaten by Yang Kai along the way. Moreover, from her bare shoulders, Yang Kai could infer that this woman wasn't wearing any clothes at the moment. Yang Kai's expression remained indifferent as he walked over to her bedside, found a chair, and sat down. Seemingly aware that someone was approaching, Bai Luo finally slowly opened her eyes, but after seeing Yang Kai's face, she panicked and quickly reached out to grab the bedding covering her body, putting on a timid expression as if she was afraid Yang Kai would take advantage of her. "What are you doing?" Bai Luo asked coldly. "Did your family's master tell you about us?" Yang Kai asked. Bai Luo nodded lightly, seeing that Yang Kai didn't have any malicious intentions. She relaxed a bit. "Since you know about us, then you must know about the overbearing and insidious nature of the Poison Widow's bloodline." "So what if he knows?" Bai Luo rested her hands on her chin and assumed a more comfortable position, sadly saying, "I can't share any of Master's burdens. As for you, if you have the heart, you might as well fulfill my Master's wish. Do you want to be beaten again?" Yang Kai's cold eyes looked at her, but Bai Luo couldn't help grinding her teeth in anger, but after witnessing Yang Kai's vile display of strength, even if she was unconvinced in her heart, she didn't dare to provoke him again. "You're not a fool." "My master is a fool." Bai Luo's voice suddenly became louder. "For you, she willingly allowed herself to be devoured by her own feelings. This time, if you hadn't turned around on a whim, I'm afraid. Saying so, Bai Luo began sobbing. If Yang Kai hadn't come back, Shanqing Luo would not have lasted until the moment he finished dealing with the central capital. She's willing to sacrifice herself to this extent. To be honest, I'm very moved. Yang Kai let out a soft sigh. The Poison Widow's bloodline may seem heartless, but in fact she is more infatuated than any other woman. These words seemed to affect Bai Luo, causing her heart to tremble slightly. Bai Luo stared at Yang Kai for a moment before wiping the tears from her eyes. If Master heard you evaluate her like this, he would definitely be very happy. I didn't come to you this time to quarrel with you. You've been accompanying Shanqing Luo all this time, but haven't you ever heard her say anything about how to remove the seed of love in her heart? Yang Kai asked in a deep voice. Bai Luo slowly shook her head. Her seed of love has already matured. There is no way to remove it. If you want Master to be safe and sound, you and her. Yang Kai smiled helplessly. In other words, in our current situation, either she dies or I die. Bai Luo gently nodded. I hope you die. Yang Kai remained silent. Bai Luo was still sobbing, but suddenly, as if thinking of something, her beautiful eyes lit up and she anxiously said, "Right, Master once said that there is no way to remove the seed of love. If there is a way to remove the poison in her body when she's aroused, then even if you and Master, that, your life won't be in danger." Yang Kai raised his brow, seemingly seeing a glimmer of hope. Then has she thought of a good way? This is just Master's guess. How could there be a practical solution? Bai Luo's expression once again became gloomy. Yang Kai's expression became thoughtful, as if he had thought of a key point, but couldn't figure it out. Bai Luo's beautiful eyes flashed as she stared towards Yang Kai, not knowing what she was thinking. After a long time, Yang Kai suddenly stood up, a thick smile filling his face as he let out a hearty laugh. "What's wrong with you?" Bai Luo was taken aback and asked with some dissatisfaction. "I think I have some ideas." "What do you mean?" Bai Luo also asked in surprise. Shanqing Luo's physique was inherited from her mother. I heard her say that one of her ancestors accidentally broke into the spider mother's nest and was poisoned, but fortunately managed to survive. Since then, the Poison Widow bloodline had appeared, and each generation only gave birth to a single daughter who inherited the Poison Widow's physique. Since the spider mother's poison is the root of this physique, perhaps that monster beast knows something about it. The more he thought about it, the more he felt it was possible. Yang Kai's thoughts gradually became clear. Stroking his chin and wearing a wise expression, he asked, "Bai Luo, where did that spider mother go? Did she die?" During the final battle of the central capital, he had been underground, so he wasn't clear about what had happened above ground. The spider mother shouldn't have died. In that battle, the ash-gray cloud evil land suffered heavy casualties. Of the 6 great evil kings, only my master and the lightning flash shadow king managed to escape, but when we finally counted the corpses, we didn't find the spider mother. I think she must have escaped. Good. Yang Kai was overjoyed. Once we find her, we should be able to find a way. But do you know where she is? Bai Luo asked. Of course I do. Yang Kai smiled confidently. At that time, he and Xianxia Luo had fallen into the spider mother's nest together, so naturally he had some memory of its location. If that's the case, we can summon all the masters in Master's territory to go there and capture the spider mother for questioning. No need, I'll go alone, it'll be faster. Yang Kai shook his head. Bai Luo was surprised. The spider mother has an above immortal ascension boundary cultivation. Can you defeat her? Just wait for my good news. Yang Kai grinned meaningfully and strode out. Wait for me. I'll go with you. Bai Luo hurriedly shouted, but before she could finish speaking, she fell onto the bed, the severe pain in her but almost causing her to lose her footing. Yang Kai had long since disappeared. Outside of Fragrant City. Following the route in his memory, Yang Kai flew all the way to the spider mother's nest. Xianxia Luo had passed through the territory of the Thunderbolt Beast King before arriving at that place. In his memory, there was also a lake nearby. Now that the ash-gray cloud evil land's 4 great evil kings had died in battle, although the lightning flash shadow king had escaped, no one knew where he was hiding. The lightning flash shadow king was also afraid that the masters from the central capital would join forces to find trouble with him, so naturally he had chosen to hide. Hiding. Moreover, since the last battle, the entire ash-gray cloud evil land had suffered heavy losses. Yang Kai had swaggered through the streets but had not encountered any decent masters. Basically, an immortal ascension boundary 3rd stage cultivator was the strongest existence in the ash-gray cloud evil land. The ash-gray cloud evil land had been tormented by Yang Bai. It would likely take at least a few dozen years for them to recover their yuan qi. So even though he was so ostentatious, no one dared to find trouble with him. Even those who saw him from afar would hurriedly avoid him. After 2 to 3 hours, Yang Kai finally arrived at the jungle he had passed through before. Half an hour later, Yang Kai found the cave he and Xianxia Luo had stayed in. It was here. Yang Kai had penetrated into the beguiling demon queen's knowledge sea and planted a seed of love in her heart. Recalling the past, Yang Kai sighed. At that time, he was only Yuan Qi 3rd stage. But now, he was already an immortal ascension boundary 6th stage cultivator. Spreading out his huge divine sense, Yang Kai quietly probed the surrounding 100-kilometer radius. Occasionally, he would feel a flow of water, so Yang Kai would investigate to see if it was the same lake he had passed through before. After a couple of hours, Yang Kai finally found the right place. Arriving at the lake he had stopped at before, Yang Kai smiled slightly. Only a few dozen kilometers away from this lake was the location of the spider mother's nest. Leaping forward, Yang Kai flew towards the direction he had determined. After an hour, a huge canyon-like area appeared in front of Yang Kai. Looking around, there were countless spider eggs, and on both sides of the canyon, there were white and tough spiders. Occasionally, he would see the bones of some cultivator. Most likely, a cultivator who had accidentally wandered into this area had been caught and eaten by the monster beast. Inside the canyon, giant spiders the size of calves were running back and forth, creating a lively atmosphere. At the end of this canyon, there was a huge spider statue, built in an unknown era, but it was still well preserved. Floating above the canyon, Yang Kai stared down coldly, his divine sense spreading out and locking onto the interior of the spider statue. Inside, he felt a life aura not inferior to a transcendent realm master. The spider mother. Sure enough, it had fled back here and was still acting like a tyrant. Just as Yang Kai's divine sense probed the existence of the Spider Mother, a burst of melodious laughter suddenly rang out in his mind. What a familiar smell. This smell should belong to that little brat from the central capital's Yang family? Yang Kai coldly snorted and shouted, "Spider Mother, please come out and meet me. Since you've come, why don't you come down and talk?" The melodious voice seemed to contain a kind of charm that tugged at one's heartstrings, drawing one's mind to follow its instructions. If Yang Kai had not seen the true face of the Spider Mother, just by listening to its voice, he would have imagined it to be a beautiful woman. In fact, the Spider Mother's face was truly beautiful. That face of hers didn't seem to belong to the human world. Any man who saw that beautiful face would inevitably let their imagination run wild. However, if one were to combine its face with its huge body and 8 claws, the feeling it gave off was nothing but horror, not a sense of beauty. Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, Martial World, and tales of demons and gods.